Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR. It's Tuesday, August 18th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. One game down in the preseason and two to go for the Chiefs. On today's show, beat writer Pete Sweeney and columnist Vahe Gregorian break down what happened in the opening game and look ahead to the next game on Saturday. And they tell us what they expect to see. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes is not on that list. After about a month in St. Joseph, it's the final week of training camp at Missouri Western, and we're all ready to break camp. We'll discuss some of the highs and lows of this year's event. After a break, I'll tell you what's on my radar in Kansas City sports. Is it just me, because I think I shared this with both of you guys earlier today, that it seems more often than not when I leave Kansas City and it's a sunny day or just a little bit of cloud cover, and I pass the Platte City Water Tower, it's looking gray to the north, and then ultimately some rain. It happens more often like that than the other. It's raining in Kansas City, and you drive north, and it's going to be sunny in St. Joe.
I'll give you a little visual amplification of that. I'm pretty sure I had sunglasses on till I hit exit 18, and exactly as you described it, sunglasses off at that point, making it harder to see.
Highly ominous. Similar to pulling up to Hogwarts for your first semester. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel great.
But you don't feel like there's that kind of cloud over this Chiefs preseason, do you?
It's been a while since they've won a game.
Did you figure out the other day, is it 6 in a row or 4 in a row? How many in a row have they lost in the preseason?
They are not. They're not a preseason team. And
And it is no harbinger of anything.
as you could tell, also, I mean,
Right.
the other day they barely played anyone. I think maybe more so than usual, and probably just a product of being a little shell shocked from your number one quarterback going down. I don't think anyone wants to take any kind of risk.
Did you decide, is it 12 starters or projected starters or 11 that didn't play? I mean, Chris Jones one play.
It was when I went back and looked at it, it was at least 10 players that, in my opinion, were of some significance. And so you lose the game. I think some of the young players were upset about that, so it doesn't really matter. But, at some point, even a preseason win for this team who hasn't won since, what was it, November, October, whatever it was, I think that would be a nice feeling for them.
Andy Reid does not take the Harbaugh approach to the preseason, does he? With Harbaugh, when he was with the Ravens, and maybe I didn't see what the results were throughout the NFL this weekend if the Giants had won their preseason opener, but the Ravens played every game to win in the preseason.
Looking from afar this weekend, I do know that Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo both logged snaps, so I'd imagine continuing the same spirit with New York.
Blair, you're making me think of this little piece of Chiefs history. First of all, we're old enough to remember when there were 6 preseason games, which was preposterous.
7 if you were the Super Bowl champ,
yeah.
and you had to play the college
All-Stars. Yeah. But remember the whole bit about after the Chiefs got skunked in the first Super Bowl by the Packers, that the next year, the preseason, they had the Bears lined up for a preseason game, and I think Len Dawson played into the third quarter.
Yes.
And it was like 62-21 or 62-10. It was meant to be a statement game. We don't really see that here now.
We're so far gone from that era of any football mattering, exhibition or not. I remember it mixed up the Pro Bowl, didn't they? And Derrick Johnson came down with a lick on Jamal Charles in a game that meant absolutely nothing. So, yeah, I mean, I think things have changed for sure.
Patrick Mahomes was never going to play. He doesn't play in the first preseason game anyway, unless I'm mistaken. He plays in some preseason.
Yeah, my recollection is first one.
Since they've changed it to 3,
Oh, yeah.
he's played a series or two, typically in the first 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe into the second, third quarter in the second game, and they've been holding him back
That's
from
right.
the third game.
What was funny, though, Saturday was him warming up and being in uniform. And
The plan is to give him as replicated a warm-up as before sending him to the showers, essentially.
yeah.
Okay, so just some general observations from you guys from the preseason open. The Chiefs, as we didn't mention the score, but they lost the game to the LA Rams 20-12. I look at it like 4 scoring drives. They get 4 10-play scoring drives They all resulted in Harrison Butker field goals, but I didn't think that was discouraging to be able to possess the ball like they did for those drives. And look, we have always talked about their red zone, since beginning of last year, the red zone issues. But and there were some other things not to like. But let's talk about things that you did like. Pete, we'll start with you. What were some of the 2 or 3 kind of bullet point items that you liked about the Chiefs in the opener?
I thought Jaden Hicks was the best player on the field for the Chiefs, and it's an outing that he needed. I'm not sure will we get Spagnuolo this week, but it'd be interesting to hear what he says just about the game, because he, for a long time, it's felt like lightly been down on Hicks as far as a capable starter. You've had these past few practices, Shamari Connor's been out, so you've seen Hicks next to Gilman. And I mean, in this exhibition look, he looked like he was playing free, led the team in tackles. I felt like he felt as comfortable as he looked in a very long time. And so, I mean, that really stuck out on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side, you were impressed with your first look at Emmett Johnson. I'm sure we'll dive into more of that. I thought the quarterback play was good. Justin Fields was 4 for 4. He had 2 drives I thought that were moving along that were both derailed by penalties. Blair had mentioned off the podcast, I'll bring it on. Like, I was very impressed with Garrett Nussmeier and his composure in his first NFL start of in any capacity. And 2 throws, when you really think about what a day is defined by, if he on that roll to the right connects with Cyrus Allen and they scored a long touchdown there, I think would have stuck out. He was a little underthrown. That was on Garrett Nussmeier. A throw from the goal line to Brownlee down the left sideline that was dropped would have went for a 94-yard touchdown. Ooh. And so I just think those 2 plays, if those 2 plays are a little bit different, I mean, the whole talk about Nussmeier would have been way different coming back here. And so I think, those 3 players for me stuck out.
Interesting about Nussmeier, because even with those plays unfolding as they did, I think you had the same impression too. I was just pretty impressed. I mean, you've been watching him all along, Pete, and thinking he's a guy who's more than just showing up and really making an impression. Obviously, he's relegated to a certain place in the pecking order with the Patrick Mahomes era here, but he looks like a guy who gets it. And has the athleticism to track with that, at least the arm and the mobility.
It just matters for everything we're going to talk about on this podcast right now, because the Chiefs haven't kept a third quarterback since 2022. Based on this performance, he's going to have probably 2 more performances like that before this is over. There's going to be no way he'd get through waivers with just such a quarterback needy league. And so that means you are looking yourself in the mirror when you do the roster. Like, where does that come from? The 4th tight end, the 4th running back, the 10th offensive lineman, the 6th linebacker, the 12th defensive back. Like, that spot, I mean, when you're talking about a 53-man roster, is critical. So it just shortens the roster by a little bit. And when you have these back-end battles among different positions, it's just, how does it all shake out?
One thing, Pete, I noticed this in you did your updated 53-man projection, and I noticed that you had Garrett Nussmeier sticking, but I also noticed the no change, which is to say that you've been looking at that way even before the preseason game.
Yeah, I mean, if you really look at his story, it's fascinating. I mean, he was projected 1st or 2nd rounder if he would have come out. Went back to LSU. This is off of a 4,000-yard year. The only other LSU quarterback to do that in the team's history is Joe Burrow, and so down year, was injured during the college training camp. Ended up being an assist on his abdominal, but then goes to the Senior Bowl as an MVP. 2 scoring drives, throws a 2-point conversion. I mean, you're talking about a day 2 quarterback that the Chiefs got in the 7th round. And so it's just a lot different than any of the backups we've seen before.
That's Pete Sweeney. Vahe Gregorian is here. Let's stick with that projected 53-man roster, Pete, that you basically updated after the game. 3 quarterbacks for sure, but you made a couple of shifts from your previous roster projection.
We had a couple minor shifts. I ended up taking away the 4th tight end. Not to say that Andy Reid doesn't like 4 tight ends. Unlike Nussmeier, I do see Brandon Stool and Trey Watson getting through waivers if he wanted to keep both of them on the practice squad. We've shifted the offensive line here and there, but I think when Trey Smith is back, Khalil Benson's locked in. Unless something drastic happens, I think he's going to be the starter at right tackle. That's everything that we've seen during training camp. Defensive line, I kept the same. I need to see more from Emmanuel Agba. I know every Chiefs fan, sorry guys, I always make fun of this. You love an old name, but Emmanuel Agba had 4 healthy scratches last year at the end of the year in Jacksonville. So I think we need to see a little bit more. Not to say that I won't change it in our final projection. And then I believe I just shifted the cornerback room a little bit. Melvin Smith has been working above Christian Fulton throughout the camp. That came at the expense of Cater Kohu. Could be Fulton. Very, very quietly here. Chiefs would have to eat $8 million, but if Fulton is behind Melvin Smith, you might want the $5 million of cap space anyway if he's not going to play anyway. So I wonder at that. I kept Fulton on for this one. And I also sent L'Jarius Sneed to the back of the room. This is a player that, it seemed like they were ramping up. This isn't confirmed, but just based on what we've seen in practice, felt like there was some kind of setback because he stopped doing even like dressing and then doing the installs. At a certain point, they completely backed off. He was doing that stuff again today, which is positive, but I don't know how you could rely this guy on, as a surefire starter, with just given the injury history. So a couple of subtle changes. Perhaps there'll be more when we do what will be 3.0 as we, spearhead into the cut down eventually at the end of August.
Just one of the things to sort of tie that together with Saturday a little bit too is we've been talking about Cyrus Allen much of camp and everything that we saw out of him Saturday. Maybe not everything, but I think virtually everything we saw out of him Saturday sort of affirmed the reason for the enthusiasm through camp. And our Sam McDowell, I think, did specifically write about Cyrus's night. But his sense of the field, his ability to get open, we haven't seen it in a preseason game yet, but his obvious chemistry with Mahomes, which we did see today at a few instances, including a long pass. I think he's really, face it right now, one of the most upbeat, good stories in that receiving room that we're having, because it looks like Rashee Rice is kind of not in full gear. Xavier Worthy's been limited with the shoulder. Tyquan Thornton was out today. I can't think of anybody else that has sort of really upped his impression in camp in that receiver room. Andrew Armstrong a bit too, but we're not even sure he'll make it.
You got to throw the disclaimer on it, right? We're recording this on August 18th, so no one hit the panic button, but he's definitely right now the most Chiefs reliable receiver. He is. I mean, when you think about, Thornton just left today. Xavier Worthy had the shoulder thing, sensitive shoulder from the surgery. I think the Chiefs were just being careful on that. He is working his way back into the mix. Rice, to me, still, and it could be injury based, is not getting any separation. The only players that seemingly can get separation are Travis Kelce, who's 37 years old, and your 5th round rookie in Cyrus Allen. I mean, I think there is some concern there. Steve Smith of NFL Network popped in the training camp. They were doing like the NFL Network ESPN thing. And he went on to later say on one of his podcasts that eventually he thinks Cyrus Allen is going to be the number one guy. And while that's exciting, isn't that a little worrisome? Like maybe he means next year. He didn't really identify when he's talking about. But yeah, that's super exciting about a player. But on the other side of it, it's like, man, that's why that was such a gasp when he got injured briefly. Like, what if the Chiefs lost this guy now?
Yeah.
They need him so bad. Like, it's amazing to me how important he's become, as a third-day rookie in the offense. Just something I never predicted would be the case at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a break. We're back on SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR, with Chiefs beat writer Pete Sweeney and Star columnist Vahe Gregorian. We're talking about the Chiefs offense a little bit. And we were talking about the wide receiver room and how everybody's been impressed with Cyrus Allen, and that story's coupled with question marks with other wide receivers. And I think that'll continue to be a storyline to follow through training camp, through the preseason, and into the regular season. But to me, it's somewhat offset by the strength of the running backs and how differently the Chiefs are going to look and approach their offense this year. Ken Walker, did he play, what was it, one snap?
One snap, no touch.
Yep,
Yeah.
On Saturday in the preseason opener. But, and Pete, you mentioned him earlier in the show, Emmett Johnson, impressive in the game. And did that performance change the pecking order a little bit behind Ken Walker?
Yeah, I think so. We were wondering if Emmett Johnson could be that guy in early downs backing up Walker to begin the season, or maybe in the middle of the season, something like that. And I just thought the effort was clearly there. There have been some pass protection stuff with him, but it doesn't mean he couldn't be an early down guy. If, like, let's say, I'm trying to think of a hypothetical situation. First down, Ken Walker breaks off a 46-yard run. It's the third quarter. Probably needs a blow. Could Emmett Johnson theoretically come on, for 3 or 4 carries, and then that setting, be someone who I think is going to be serviceable? And I think, this is an early look. We got to continue to see it. But Saturday, the answer is yes. And I think where it gets interesting is, how does Brashard Smith fit into the fold? How does Amari DiMercato, who you also brought in, fit into the fold? I tend to think they almost split the third down role, which is because, Amari and Ken Walker are pretty good pass blockers. I think Brashard Smith taking a step forward. Something to remember, despite the Emmett Johnson performance, is like he's still untenable to me. Like when I watch the pass blocking in practice, like he just gets blown by. And so I think it'll limit him. But for being a rookie in his first game, I think the bones of what you want are there. And I've pointed to, Ken Walker is cuttable in that third season of the contract. It gives you 2 years to really develop the guy in any kind of weakness he had. But man, what a palette to start with when you are trying to turn that guy into maybe somebody that can be a really good player for you in 2 years in the 2028 season.
Just a minor question of perception. It appeared to me, at least on the long drive drill today, I think it was 14 plays. I don't think Emmett Johnson was out there with the first team. Brashard Smith took 3, 4, 5 snaps out there. Does that tell us anything or not really?
DiMercato's usage was curious, I thought, because he got a veteran amount of snaps, but it didn't come till later. Like a lot of the veterans who left the game got like their 5 to 10 toward the beginning in offense and defense, and then we're out of there. So it's hard to read. Like, did they just really want to get Emmett Johnson and Brashard Smith those early looks just to, for the better competition? We know what DiMercato is. He's got 4 years of tape. Or is that a greater sign of like, maybe he isn't the guy, and this is really a true, authentic battle for number 2.
We mentioned Sam McDowell, our colleague, a little earlier. He's got a column on the Star's website posted, I think it was posted earlier this week, that detailed the differences between the Chiefs running their offense under center versus shotgun, and how much more effective the running game is in that circumstance. I would suggest you dive into that. Really, really good column, and we are absolutely going to see more Chiefs under center this season.
Without a doubt. They just want to get away from the RPO. I mean, they want their linemen who they feel good about, especially on the interior, to know if it's a pass or a run ahead of time, so you could block up for that. And they bought the back in Kenneth Walker to do it. And yeah, I think this is a very early sign that for sure times are changing in Andy Reid's offense.
It is such a funny thing. I've hearkened back to this a couple times, but Andy, I don't know if Andy got fed up with the questions or if he was just having fun with it, but the one day when he was asked how much the presence of Kenneth Walker would change the scheme, the philosophy at all, and he just said, we're going to run every down now. And
yes, or one of our colleagues a question. You want us to run more, don't you?
yeah, and he also did, yeah. But the other thing too, and it's separate yet semi-related. It sure seems like there's been an emphasis on the screen game, and the sorts of screens I don't think we'd really seen being worked on in camp. At least not as much over the last few years. Do you agree with that? You watch closer than I do, for sure.
These last 3 seasons, so that would be 23, 24, 25. The screen percentage has dipped to now below 10%. It's dipped 3 years in a row. Now, part of that is the NFL changing how they operate as far as defense goes. But I don't think they've had the personnel that they've liked to do it in a while. And I definitely think it'll tick up this season just based upon the amount of looks that Walker might get. It might be a tight end. It could be Cyrus Allen. I think Andy really feels like he has the athletic offensive lineman also to do it. These guys are pretty good athletes, even though they're the big boys up front. And so, man, that was such a huge part of what Andy Reid used to like to do. And yeah, I do think that'll be reinvigorated this year for sure.
On the long drive drill, they ran a throwback screen.
Yes.
And I looked, I saw it was Mahomes to Walker.
Yes.
That went for 20, 25 yards. And I looked at that and said, God, I remember that. And I got wistful about
Yeah.
just about that play. Maybe it was to Damian Williams or to Kareem Hunt, to whoever, but
Jamal
Charles, right? But we haven't seen that
Yeah.
at least run effectively
Yeah.
in a while, the way I saw it today.
I think combination of both, right? I think they understood the personnel, as Pete mentioned, and then just could see that play's not going to go, and certainly they went away from it.
Looked way better than the throwback screen that Travis Kelce threw for an interception from years ago. I'd say that much.
At MetLife,
That's right.
as I recall. Let's see. Interesting offensive line today. Starting offensive line at practice. Josh Simmons was out. What did we hear? The injury
It was a back injury.
back. Well, we'll see. We'll monitor that for sure.
He looked like in watching him with the athletic trainers, it looked like it didn't look like I don't think he's the
strain-ish.
Yeah, and like just Drew Tranquil's been dealing with that. I think you always worry about the back with the linemen, but I didn't get the impression from just glancing over there every once in a while that it's going to keep him out of any significant time.
Jalen Moore took that position,
Yeah.
and Khalil Benson went over to right tackle, where Pete, you said you see him starting this year, and then Mike Caliendo moved in at guard, and less than ideal scenario for the Chiefs with that lineup. Trey Smith being out is also part of the equation.
I've seen out there like the Chiefs need a wide receiver, the Chiefs need a linebacker, the Chiefs they need interior depth more than anything. Like that would be the position. I'm looking at these other teams. I think the Chiefs waiver number for a change this year is 8. So they could be looking across the league because they need an infusion of interior lineman talent that just like straight up like is not in the building right now.
Are we at a point about getting concerned about Trey Smith, or it seems like they've really downplayed it, but I also thought he would have been back by now.
As of yesterday, Andy said that while he probably won't be back this week, he is close. And so a lot of times these games, we got another one coming up Saturday. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a second, but a lot of times these games will serve as a benchmark. You get the travel day. I'm sure Trey won't travel. You get the game day. You get another day off after that. And it's like, okay, let's aim for maybe Monday to get him back in the mix back in Kansas City. So I tend to think it'll be then that we see him again.
As you said, Pete, preseason game number 2 is Saturday at Tampa Bay, an evening game. So what do we expect to see? Justin Fields will likely start at quarterback.
Yeah, the impression I got from Andy Reid's words going into the first game is Pat might not play the entire preseason. And while I know a lot of people agree with that as well, and you don't want to risk it. I've talked about how September 14th, Monday night will be 9 months exactly from the injury. So that's usually like the minimum that you want. It's like, are we sure that Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to get? I know we'll get Andy Reid this week, and it would be good to get an update, and I plan on doing so. It'd be good to get an update of like where are you at? Maybe not as far as him playing in the preseason, but where are you as far as your optimism level that you talked about at the beginning of camp of him being ready for week 1? Because I think that is something that deserves a necessary update. But yeah, back to this game. As far as this goes, I fully expect it'll be Justin Fields again.
It was a really nuanced thing that Sam McDowell picked up on with Patrick speaking the one time we've spoken with him since camp started.
Mm-hmm.
When Patrick dropped the term in there about, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but that he's still waiting to be cleared. He didn't use that word, I don't think, but get the okay for the opener. And I think there's been this sort of perception where he's been cleared to practice, he's been cleared X, Y, Z, but there are stages of this that remain. And within that point that Sam made, also Patrick very clearly expressed that he had another level of go that he hasn't quite hit yet.
Yeah, it's those like 3rd and 8, 2nd and 8 scrambles that we see. There's
Woods.
nothing there.
Yeah.
Oh wait, here's some green grass. I don't think he trusts himself right now to go and get those first downs at this stage. And yeah, I think you're going to want that if you are going to start the game.
We'll be closely monitoring this as we progress. Vahe, we heard from Eric Bieniemy today for the first time since he returned, or since he left camp maybe 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
To deal with the family tragedy. What were your impressions from EB?
I felt like, first of all, it's really encouraging that he's back because of the implications of what it says about the stability of his wife at home and that things are, as he said today, she's on the path of true recovery after the shooting. We don't know too many details of anything really, right? But I thought Eric was himself. I mean, maybe there was a little restraint in the first few minutes as he kind of made a statement, but then next thing you know, he's talking about how he was watching the live streams and yelling at the screen, yelling at players, yelling at coaches, yelling at himself for putting in something in the script. And I also thought he showed a lot of, I think, really sincere and deep gratitude to the organization and fans and people that supported him. So one of the things we all try to ask in different ways was, how much he feels like this is a sanctuary. I kind of parroted something that Travis Kelce likes to say. Pete phrased it far more eloquently in a sort of another way of asking him. But I come away feeling like it does him good to be here because he can feel settled about how things are stable at home right now.
Here being St. Joe and training camp, and we only have a couple days left in training camp 2026. I used the term wistful a little while ago. I'm not so wistful about training camp in St. Joe, the schedule that you have to keep to commute here. I'm never sorry to see it end, and that will continue this week.
If you think you don't like the commute, you can imagine these dorm room players now ready there to exit St. Joe.
Players, in fact, the entire organization that's up here, I think, is ready to go. So I do think it's funny. We started the podcast, Blair, with the image of coming up here and seeing it darken as we hit exit 18 or wherever the water tower is. I think it might feel the opposite exactly on our way back on Thursday.
Thursday afternoon really calls for the schools out for summer on the spot.
And by the way, not to disparage the people of St. Joe.
Absolutely not.
Right?
And Missouri West. They do a great job.
We are enthusiastically greeted everywhere we go here from, the once in a while when we get out to a restaurant, but right here in the building, it's really an engaging place that way.
Mine is a purely selfish perspective.
Well, you're getting up very early. Both you guys are doing the yeoman's work of being up really early and being here from the start. I come drifting in a little later, telling myself I need to keep my routine in order to keep my mental health. But you guys are troopers.
For those who don't know, Pete gets here, is always one of the first ones here at practice, and he takes attendance. And it's not as easy as having a player raise his hand and saying, here. It's Pete logging the numbers of all night.
Aaron? Yeah, no. Thank you.
Be nice.
That's right. But it was you who told me, because I arrived a little late today, that Josh Simmons was not practicing.
Yeah, there's been a growing injury list. It's better to remind people, though, too, when we talk about it, like this is par for the course of the NFL.
Sure.
I mean, you go across the league, aside from the 30-man substation issue that's in San Francisco, everyone has like 10 to 15 minor bumps and bruises. Football, you can only practice football by practicing football. So it just takes different body movements to actually be able to do this. So the good thing is, for the most part, aside from like a few, again, secondary type of players here and there, the Chiefs have been lucky in terms of like significant losses in terms of starters. Knock on wood. I know people want to do that, but so that's been a good thing, I think, for them.
You won't find better coverage of the Chiefs than in the Kansas City Star. The beat writer Pete Sweeney, columnist Vahe Gregorian, and our colleague Sam McDowell. All right, guys, take care. Here's what's on my radar in Kansas City sports this week. The Royals are home all week, and they've welcomed back a couple of regulars. First baseman Vinny Pasquantino and third baseman Michael Garcia returned to the lineup on Monday, and both contributed to a victory over the Athletics. When the story of this Royals season is written, and we read about where things went off track, injuries like the ones to Pasquantino and Garcia will be a big part of that narrative. The AP College Football Top 25 is out, and there is a local entry. Missouri checked in at number 25. What's more, running back Ahmad Hardy made the preseason All-America team. He's still recovering from the gunshot wound suffered in the offseason, but some nice recognition for the Tigers, who open on September 3rd against Arkansas Pine Bluff before visiting Kansas on September 11th. That'll do it for this week. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks to our producers, Gabriella Lacey, Suzanne Hogan, and Hannah Wise, and to our editors, Jeff Rosen and Scott Chasen. Let us know what you thought of the show by leaving a rating and review. We'll be back next week on SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City.